Good day everyone, welcome to JD's channel. Today, we're going to discuss another topic. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tutorials. Thank you and God bless.
Good day everyone, welcome again to JD's channel, and for today's topic, we are going to discuss moral philosophy or ethics. Okay, so let's get started. So for the content, we will define what is ethics, the importance of ethics, the difference of moral and non-moral standards, and characteristics of moral standards, how moral standards are formed. For introduction, now we are going to analyze ethics in different perspectives, which includes its definition, nature, and its importance to an individual and society. It presents the difference between moral standards and non-moral standards, tackles as well as the characteristic of moral standards that can easily identify their distinction with each other and how moral standards are formed. For learning objectives, after studying this module, you should able to, number one, discuss the definition, nature, and importance of ethics to an individual and society. Number two, explain the difference between moral standards and non-moral standards. Number three, enumerate the characteristic of moral standards to easily identify its dissimilarities to non-moral standards. And number four, explore how moral standards are formed. So let's now proceed. What is ethics? So ethics or moral philosophy can be provisionally described as the empirical study of moral decisions. It is a discipline concerned with what is morally good and evil, right and wrong. The word often refers to any scheme or philosophy of universal ideals or belief. So the concept is derived from the Greek word ethos, which means tradition, habit, character, or attitude. This is not only about the nature of specific courses of action, but it is also about the goodness of people and what it means to lead a decent life. Moreover, ethics is a systematic analysis of nature of human action. So, basically class, ethics is how to behave in the most appropriate way, the most the right way. Okay. The systematic analysis of nature of human action. So we also consider how we will act in a particular circumstances or event in our lives. It's also concerned about the correctness and wrongness of act. An act is deemed to be wrong or right. So, ayan. Masasabi natin ito ay wrong or right. Yan. Ito yung nakabase sa ano ba yung intensyon. Ayan. Ano ba yung intensyon sa paggawa ng ganong reaction or action. Ano ba yung circumstansya or circumstances na kinaharap niya, and also yun, character nung action itself. So, ayan. So, human action. As philosophy, it is a very important discipline because it involves critical thinking. Ayan. Truly, ito, yung mga movements and behavior mo once ikaw ay ethical na tao or ethical person, so you think it critically before you act. Okay? As it explore and describe fundamental beliefs, so you do not just act, lalo na kapag halimbawa nasa isa kang community na medyo iba sa'yo. So you are thinking critically, and also syempre you observe, you explore, and you describe yung mga beliefs doon, ano ba yung mga standards and ideals and tradition which yung place ay meron. So in that knowledge, so you will act decently. You will act ethically. This is thus a higher level of human discipline. So ayan, kaya ikaw bilang ethical na person, you will act at a higher human discipline. Ayan. Because you apply yung mga you explore, you describe, and you observe yung mga beliefs, standards, and ideals and tradition ng isang particular na society where you are in. So you think critically before you act. As a branch of philosophy, ethics divided into two. So yung ating normative and meta-ethics. So let's define these two. So una is normative ethics. Okay? So ano ba to? The purpose of normative ethics which concern human behavior in general. So ito, class ito is nakafocus, or ang purpose na talaga is in human behavior. To address our question about essence of human behavior. So bakit ka pa nag-act na ganun? Ano ba yung normal na akto sa ganung sitwasyon? So yan. So normative ethics by definition examine whether or not a particular act should. So ito ba yung nararapat? Ito ba yung paano ba ako magre-react? Paano ba ako magre-respond? So and kung ito ba ay kailangan ba ganito response ko or reaction ko, or wala akong reaction. Yan. Ayan. Should a particular act should or should not be carried out. Normative ethics seek to set norms or yung mga normal na standard for conduct. So this normative ethics ay nahati pa sa dalawa, which is moral philosophy and applied ethics, or practical ethics. Okay, so unahin natin yung moral philosophy. So what is moral philosophy? Moral philosophy deals with moral ideas such as what human being must do or how human being should be. Ayan. So ito, naka-focus siya sa moral application, meaning ng act or purpose ng act. So more on human behavior. Ano ba yung narapat gawin? Ano ba yung moral obligation mo? Okay? Meaning ng iyong action. Ano ba yung purpose? Why you did that kind of action? Ayan, or reaction. So yun po, siya ay nakafocus sa moral ideas of such human being. So ano ba yung what must I do? How human being should be. Ayan. And yung namang applied ethics or practical, from the word set, practical ethics. So, you will do the which is necessary. Ayan. So, which is dapat. Ayan. So, ayan. By definition muna, so, applied ethics is a philosophy that discuss strong and basic moral issues. So, ayan, isa nga yun yung abortion po. So, sa ibang bansa kasi, legal ang abortion. So, ang kanilang reasoning doon is kung hindi mo kaya na you are not financially stable, so better i-abort yung magiging anak. Ano po? So, yun yung kanilang applied ethics to avoid yung yung hindi magandang future. Yun yung kanilang reasoning doon, which is syempre sa atin dito is mali. Okay? So, applied ethics refers to the practical application of moral consideration. Yan. So, we consider things and we act in the most practical way. Ayan. So, isa nga nito is yung euthanasia. Ano ba yung euthanasia? Is the practice of intentionally ending life to relieve pain and suffering. So, ito yung mga tao na nasa ICU, ang tagal na sa ICU, and na lang, yung makina na lang yung nagpapabuhay sa kanila. So, to end the pain and suffering, so they do this euthanasia. They apply this euthanasia. Next is what is metaethics. So metaethics, let's define metaethics. Metaethics is a discipline that relies on meaning. So ito naman on meaning, unlike sa ating nauna na normative ethics, which is sa human behavior. Ito on meaning. It is a science that is seeking to address non-moral question about morality. Those refers to question about nature of moral statement, purpose. So ito nakabase ito sa ano ba yung goodness, ano ba yung purpose, yung nandoon siya sa meaning, hindi siya doon sa action or the behavior, doon siya sa meaning. Ano ba yung mabuti? Ayan. Ano ba yung karapat-dapat? Yung significance of moral facts, concern about interpretation. Ayan. So, ano ba yung interpretation mo sa ayan. So, lagi naghahanap ng meaning. Ano po? Justification of moral statement. So, siya ay after dun sa meaning. Okay po? Unlike dun sa kanina, sa normative is dun siya sa action naman. Sa behavior. Ayan. So, ito yung ating conceptual framework na ethics. So, makikita natin. So, ethics yung nasa taas wherein ito yung nagtuturo sa atin ng good, okay, and good from bad or evil, and then yung right from wrong, and then do not ma-achieve yung highest order discipline kung saan magiging disciplined citizen tayo or human. And meron tayong dalawa na ating siya sa dalawa, yung normative ethics and meta-ethics, wherein sa normative it's focus on the human behavior. So yung ating moral philosophy, which is yun yung ating moral application, moral ideas, and yung moral questions. And yung applied, nandiyan din yung ating applied or practical ethics na kung saan strong basic moral issues yung under nito, like yung ating euthanasia and yung ating abortion, wherein you do practical way to is something syempre, sa ibang lugar naman, sa ibang places, hindi yun yung practical. So, may mga ganun talaga po. So, and sa meta ethics naman, so nakafocus siya sa meanings. So, non-moral question on morality, and kung saan dito yung question natin is okay, so about the goodness, so ano ba yung good, ano ba yung bad, ano po. Ayan, so more on nakafocus siya sa definition, interpretation, and sa justification, on the moral statement purpose, and yung significance ng moral facts. So nakatutok siya dun sa meaning. Okay, so yan yung ating dalawa diyang kung saan nahati yung ethics, normative and meta ethics. So next one is the importance of ethics. Ano ba yung importance ng ethics is? Ethics again is a set of rules that allows us to say right from wrong and yung good from bad. So ethics provide true specific guidelines in our lives. Siyempre naman pagka alam natin yung tama sa mali, so it will talaga provide sa atin yung true so, and it will guide us. It will talagang specific guidance upang tayo mamuhay in a decent life. And ethical principle like yung ating fairness, worthiness, responsibility help direct us to cope more effectively with ethical dilemma. So ano ba yung ethical dilemma? Ethical dilemma is ito yung sitwasyon kung saan it is a situation wherein you can't see solution in a certain situation. So yung isang solution ay naiipit ka sa two or more option kung saan actually yung dalawang solusyon na yun ay hindi magiging sagot dun sa problema mo. Ano po? So, kaya nagkakaroon ng ethical dilemma sa pag pinili mo yung isa or you choose one, may epekto dun siyempre sa o hindi niya talaga nasasagot yung problema. Ano po? So, kaya nagkakaroon ng ethical dilemma. Ayan. So, naiipit ka dun sa sitwasyon na either naman dun sa dalawa na piliin mo is walang tatamang sagot. By removing action that do not adhere, ayan, so kung saan tayo inaalis natin yung mga option na hindi nagiging kaugnay ng ating sense of right and wrong. So yun, our own moral. Minsan kasi we are driven by our moral interests. Hindi natin nababalance lahat. Kumbaga minsan nako-compromise sa iba, mas ating ginugusto yung gusto talaga natin, kumbaga yun. So furthermore, ethics is all about decision. So talaga naman ethics is all about decision. Magdidesisyon ka talaga, kaya you need to know what is wrong from right. What is right from wrong, and good from evil. Okay, so we are continually faced with issues that affect the quality of our lives. We are certain that the choices we make have consequences for our lives and others. Siyempre, yung mga decision natin, may consequences yan. Lagi sa atin, siyempre meron yung consequences sa atin. Somehow, meron din sa iba. We are cautious of the responsibility that we have for our action. So, dapat tayo ay maingat, ayan, cautious. Ano po? At sa bawat decision natin, because syempre, and we take our full responsibility doon sa magiging action or magiging result ng ating action na yun. Why should other individual have lack of ethics? So, according to Baserman and Triburnsen, they identify the blind spot as the differences between who you want to be and who you are. So, yun daw yun. Why other individual have lack of ethics. Ayan. Hence, most of us want to do the right thing. So, sino ba naman ang gustong gumawa ng mali? So, we always want the right thing. But, ano ba yung pumipigil sa atin? So, but internal and external factor are in the way. So, may mga within us na pumipigil sa atin to do what is right, and yung mga nakapaligid sa atin. Ano po? However, ethicists put less emphasis on studying philosophic principle, and instead they emphasize the importance of establishing good habit or character. So, ayan, ano ba yung good habit of character? So, ito yung need to do the right thing in the right place and time in the right way. Ayan. The virtue of intelligence, bravery, patience, and justice guide ethical decision making as they provide the basis for rational decision when faced with ethical dilemma. So, yan yung intelligence natin, bravery, patience, and justice. It will help us talaga in to guide us in ethical decision making. Ayan, so ito yung nagpo-provide sa atin ng mga basis, yung mga nararapat, okay, which is a right choice of decision when faced sa ating mga dilemma. Okay, so lalo sa ethical dilemma. We ought to be ethical as it determines who we are both personally and as a society. There must be moral principle that should be observed by all. So ito yung dapat, bakit kasi? Kasi kung walang ganyan, kung wala tayong basis, kung wala tayong standard, so some people will lie, syempre. Parang napakadali na magsinunod because wala namang sinusunod. Many people or many may not do what they assume they will do. So, ayan. Hindi sila gagawa because syempre wala silang sinusunod na principle or moral principle na ano yung dapat nilang ginagawa, hindi yun yung kanilang ginagawa. And other may behave irresponsible. Yan. Okay, so yung duty hindi na nagagawa, naging irresponsible, and participate in harmful conduct. So yan, which is they will do harm sa other people. For moralists, following one's interest is not wrong. Yun yung point of view ng isang moralist. But nevertheless, an ethical individual, okay, must be able at least occasionally, to place the need of others ahead of self-interest. So, ayan. Ikaw ba'y ganito na you place the need of others ahead of your self-interest? Yeah. So, bilang ethical individual, okay, so we must practice this because yan, of our duty to civil society. And also, syempre, ayan, it is in your heart Okay? Dapat. To help others. According to Leono Jr. and Guton, the study of ethics should consider making it possible for an individual to fully understand what his conscience is. Ano ba yung sa conscience ng isang tao? How he gained it, how he has gained it, how far he is willing and able to respect his outward manifestation with protection, and also how well he can strengthen it and make it even smarter. So yan, we as a ethical person, so you must fully understand yung conscience mo. Ano po? Added to it, person can gain better insight into his claims to society as well as the obligation he owes to society. He must learn to distinguish between the respects. Ayan. So, he must learn to distinguish between the respects in which all persons are highly dependent and those who are responsible for his or her own life and will focus on freedom of initiative. Eventually, it will at least allow certain observation for understanding self-sacrifice and obligation, which will enable us to make these decisions. From the standpoint of the authors mentioned above, so yung mga ilang authors natin doon, several views on the importance of ethics will profoundly, and these are the following. So, una, through ethics, people can determine the difference between right from wrong, good and bad. Secondly, people can eliminate action that do not conform to what is right. So thirdly, people will be very careful to the action and decision to make. Yan, hindi siya yung basta lang nagdesisyon. So they think critically. Ayan. So people will not be disturbed of the internal and external factor of not doing the right thing. Okay, so nakafocus siya in doing the right thing. Hindi siya apektado kung ano man yung kanyang self-interest and yung mga nakapaligid sa kanya. Establish good habit of character of a person. Ayan, yung nagagawa ng kapag ikaw ay ethical person. Ano po? Come up to rational decision or better decision, okay, in facing ethical dilemmas. Good decision. It makes a person responsible in family, school, and society. Yan. Meron na lang care, okay, sa kanyang nakapaligid sa kanya. And a person becomes sensitive to the needs of others more than himself or herself. May concern ka na sa iba. Okay? Hindi ka na self-centered. Okay, so remind a person to fully meet conscience in decision making, and a person can acknowledge the action he needs. So yeah, he fully understand his conscience. Okay, so ayan, next one is the difference between moral and non-moral standard and the characteristic of moral standards. So countries and nations, rich or poor, developed or underdeveloped, have their own set of laws, policies, culture, tradition, customs, and beliefs. It may be acceptable to other countries but not acceptable to others. Some principles and values have social consequences, whereas some do not. It is a matter of moral indifference. That is a matter of taste in one society, may be matter of moral meaning in another. For this reason, people need to recognize the difference between moral principle and non-moral ones, to define the basic ethical values that can direct our actions. Moral standard compel us to behave accordingly. So yun yung ginagawa ng ating moral standard, no? To behave accordingly through, although we have no right to insist on non-moral values. So ano ba yung moral standard? So define natin. Moral standard refers to the guidelines we have on the types of acts that we find to be morally permissible and morally unacceptable. It is primarily deals with the issues that either potential threaten and greatly benefit human being. So ito yung mga guidelines kung saan sa iba permissible and sa iba naman is maaaring hindi po morally unacceptable. And also ito ay deals with the issue that maaaring makasama at maaaring din syempre makabenefit sa human being. So some ethicists place moral ethics on par with social values and moral principles. So, moral standard normally promote common good. Ayan. Yan yung ginagawa ng ating moral standard. Promote common good sa bawat isa. The welfare, well-being of human being, animals, and environment. Ayan. So, moral standard also are a blending of norms and values. So, yung normal and then yung values na siyempre yung right values natin. So, kaya nga yung norms plus values pertain dun sa ating moral standards. So, ano ba yung norms and ano ba yung values? Standard, norms are basic guidelines regarding human acts. So, yun yung mga standard, yun yung mga dapat, right, ayan, and ayan, yung mga basic guidelines on how human must act. And values naman are universal conviction as to what, yan, kung ano ba yung acceptable, desirable, and beneficial. And ano yung mga hindi. So, there are several characteristic moral standard as mentioned by Velasquez. So, ano ba yung mga yan? So, moral standard entails serious harm or benefits. So, for example, we have the thief, we have the murderer of innocent people, we have yung taong respectful or respected to others, a feeding program, yan, para sa mga poor. So, anong indication nito? So, first two can harm, and the next two can produce benefits to you, and the action as done is helpful to human beings. So, ayan, yung moral standards, ano po? Makikita natin yan, it entails serious harm or benefits. Second one, moral standards are not determined by authorities figures. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Moral values should always be upheld. So, ito dapat ay laging nasusunod. Even if they are odd with self-interest. Even if kasalungat ito na gusto nating gawin, ito yung kailangan pa rin masunod. Manatili yung ating moral values. So, isang example nito, ayan, so alam ko familiar ka dito. So, cheating on examination is an example wherein the student should not cheat during exam as a rule in educational institution, and in doing such an act, cheating is wrong. Okay, it's not because students are afraid of the teacher, instructor, or professor, but the student know that is a wrong act. Okay, so dapat yung ating moral standard still nananatili even if salungat siya dun sa ating self-interest. Ano po? Pangatlo, moral standards should be adapted over other values including self-interest. So, yan. So, moral standards should always be retained. Ayan. Even if they are at stake dun sa ating self-interest. Moral standards are focused on objective considerations. So, the basis of consideration and decision must not be favored only to a particular person or group. Ayan. Anyone who commits mistake and wrongful act then is punished accordingly. So, kumbaga, wala tayong sinisino, pag may pagkakasala, so, it will punish accordingly. It must be unbiased and impartial consideration. Panglima, standards are perceived to be universal. We meet everyone to live up to these norms and feel resentful when someone doesn't live up to them. So, ayan. So, kapag meron tayong moral standard, mas ito dapat ay nasusunod ng lahat. Okay? Nasusunod siya ng lahat. Okay? Because, syempre, somebody will feel resentful kapag merong nakakalabag. So, it must be universal. Moral standard believed to be universal as it applicable anywhere and anytime. For instance, lying. Telling the truth is the universal standard. Hence, we should not lie. Ayan, yung example natin. And moral standard are correlated with different feelings and vocabulary. So, if anyone doesn't live up to the norms or standard, we feel guilty, bad, and wrong. The same is true when someone else does not live up to the expectation, norms, and standard. Others may feel disgusted. Yan. Talagang may inis doon sa isang tao na yun. Okay, so ayun po yung ating mga moral standards. And we go now to non-moral standards. On contrary, ayan, moral standards apply to law which are not related to social or legal considerations. Perhaps these criteria are not inherently related to morality or by their very definition, lack of ethical sense. Ayan. So ano ba yung mga moral standards na yan? So ito siya. Example niya is yan, yung etiquette, statutes, and code of professional ethics. So, itipain natin yung tatlo na yan. Ano po? So, but before that, so, yan, ating tingnan tong summary and difference of moral standard and non-moral standard. So, again, we have moral standard, that is the guidelines, kung saan, ayan, morally permissible, morally unacceptable. Ayan, so, yung right from wrong, ano po? And potentially threatening and harmful. Tapos yung beneficial naman sa human beings and promote common good. Wherein dun sa non-moral, so apply to laws. Ayan, kung saan unrelated to moral and ethical consideration, lack of ethical sense. So, ito yung tatlo na yun. So, yung etiquette, statute, and code of professional ethics. So, yung nasa batas, yun yung sinusunod. Ano po? Hindi siya affected ng or related ng moral and ethical considerations. So, ano ba yung etiquette? Etiquette is decorum, propriety, means reverence for the formal criteria governing conduct in a civilized society. It also refers to conventional way and uses of rule of etiquette. Decorum implies modesty and a sense of what is becoming or is fitting for a person of good breeding. Fine sense of decorum. So ito yung kagandahang asal syempre. Ayan. In the Philippines, noisily eating meals is unethical, but in other countries like Japan, China, South Korea, in doing that show that a person like the food, especially in taking soup. So yan, sa atin parang medyo annoying yun or yan. Pero sa ibang bansa, it's very okay. So what is statute? Okay, so statute is a written law passed by a legislative body. So, as defined by Oxford English and Spanish Dictionary. So, yan, statute natin. Furthermore, as mentioned by University of Melbourne Library Guide, statutes shall contain acts of Congress, local charter, municipal code, states, administrative rules, regulation, statutory rules, and presidential issues. Republic Act Number 11463, an act of establishing Malasakit Center in all Department of Health Hospital in the country and in the Philippine General Hospital (PGH), providing funds, therefore, and for other purposes is an example. Yan ang ating statute in the Philippines. Okay, the power conferred by the law on the medical director and chief of hospital or chief in the medical center, the director of Malasakit Center shall oversee the proper management and effective operation of the Malasakit Center. If its power don't conflict with any other form of law, it is legally binding. Yeah. So, yun yung condition. If walang conflict, ayan, so it is legally binding. Legally and morally are distinct, but often people confuse about these terms. We believe that what is moral is also legal, and what is immoral is not good. Okay, the truth is not all that is lawful is moral. Okay, not all that is lawful is moral. The Professional Code of Ethics consequently is a set of guidelines intended to help practitioners differentiate between the right and wrong to guide their decision making. So ito naman sa mga professionals, okay? So such rules also referred to us as the Code of Ethics define the purpose, ideal of organization, how staff within the organization are to handle issues, and the expectation to which workers are bound. Okay, the members of professional to which he or she belongs have learned, approved, and compiled with the laws, regulation, and conditions set down by profession. Violations of the code can result in the disapproval of the member. Ito yung extreme cases pa. So, a lawyer may be excluded from the legal career and may prohibit him or herself practicing law. He or she, in sense of a professional code of ethics, is not a more comprehensive or fully accurate guide to one's moral obligation. Almost all professional codes are strictly moral in nature, and even so, the fact that a law legally embodied as a part of professional code does not guarantee that it is a sound moral concept. A practitioner must take the sanction of his or her profession seriously. However, he or she also has the right to evaluate certain laws objectively for himself or herself. And lastly, so how moral standards are formed. So moral are shaped by the belief of an individual. Values are the basic of capacity of an individual to distinguish between right and wrong. Moral builds on this form concrete context-driven rule that regulates the action of an individual. They are formed from the experience of a person's life and are subject to opinion. There are certain moral standards that all of us in our action in society. There are various factors on how standard or moral standard influence. So, ang una class is moral values or principles that we conform with in our reading. Okay? Secondly, the character and the manner that imbibe with us by means of birthright. Thirdly, the religious values of our forefathers taught us. Okay, pang-apat, the values we learn from school. Panglima, the moral conduct, ways, and habit of those people around us. Pang-anim, the direct and implied cultural norms. Pang-pito, our life experiences is also kasama dito. And lastly, our critical thinking in these experiences. So that is how the moral standards are formed. So ito yung train chain of development of moral standard. Kaya kung makikita natin, meron tayong moral standard, life experiences, individual action, rules and regulations. So yung values, religious values, character, and manners. And lastly, yung ating individual beliefs. Ayan. So that would be all, class. Thank you for your time. Keep safe, everyone, and God bless you. I hope that you get something and you learn something from this tutorial. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tutorials. So thank you, class, and God be all the glory. So thank you and keep safe, everyone. God richly bless you.